The land during the construction of the subway almost all the time presents surprises to the builders. Sometimes, for construction crews, archaeologists are specially sent underground to find valuable relics at the site of future stations and preserve them. Hi friend, you're on the KirTop channel. Solid Gold Cape. In 1833, a golden cape made of solid gold was found in North Wales. It was discovered by workers in the city of Mold in a mysterious area called Fairy Hill. The legend said that fabulous creatures live here that can bring happiness or, conversely, harm lost travelers. It was rumored that treasures were buried underground, guarded by ferocious guards in armor of gold. On October 11, 1833, the large landowner Langford sent his workers to the hill, who stumbled upon an ancient burial place. Just at the moment, the priest Charles Butler Koch passed by and immediately recognized the tomb in the stone box. Further excavations were carried out under his supervision. The sarcophagus contained the remains of a man and a golden cape that covered them. All of this suffered greatly from time to time and began to crumble at the slightest touch. The deceased was wearing an amber necklace of 200-300 beads, but only one has survived to this day. The priest understood the enormous value of what was found, asked Langford to keep everything intact, and he himself wrote a letter to the Antiquities Society. For some unknown reason, they did not answer him until 3 years later. During this time, some of the gold went from hand to hand, only one bead remained from the necklace, and the bones were not considered anything valuable at all, and most likely they were simply buried in the ground. Despite this, the London Museum bought the surviving treasure from the landowner. It took 100 years to find and connect all the pieces of the cape. Research has shown that it was manufactured between 1900 and 1600 BC. Its width was 45.5 centimeters. Based on such a modest size, we can say that a rather fragile person rested under them. Accompanying finds suggest that it was a woman. The drape was made from a solid piece of gold. Almost all of its surface is covered with a surprisingly delicate ornament. It consists of depressions and protrusions, even rows of round and oval beads, pyramids. To make the artifact, you needed a bar of gold, the size of a tennis ball. The cape weighs 560 grams. Diatreta from France. In France, employees of the National Institute for Preventive Archaeological Research presented finds made during excavations of an ancient necropolis in the city of Autun. The most curious artifact turned out to be a bowl, which was used for religious ceremonies. Experts classified it as a diatrete. This is how glass vessels are usually called, bell-shaped with double walls and an open work nap between them. The vessel dates back to the 4th century AD, and the necropolis itself, as established by archaeologists, was actively used from the beginning of the 3rd to the middle of the 5th centuries. Scientists know that the vessel was crafted very skillfully. It is distinguished by its intricate ornamentation. Experts describe this piece as a masterpiece of Roman glass art. According to them, such a product could only be made by a very experienced craftsman who took several months to work. Experts also point out that this item was very expensive and prestigious. Such a vessel could only belong to a representative of the upper class. Scientists do not exclude that the owner of the artifact could be a representative of the royal family or a person very close to it. Chocolate that is 120 years old. Australian National Library staff have found a stash from the last century among the papers of local poet and journalist Andrew Benjol Patterson. Recently, his author's manuscripts were handed over to the library, and when the employees were dismantling them, they smelled an unusual smell. It turns out that a tin box with chocolate was hidden between them. The chocolate was wrapped in foil and straw. Such boxes of chocolate were sent by the British Queen to soldiers in South Africa during the Boer War of 1899-1902. Experts believe that the journalist received chocolate as a gift from one of the soldiers when he worked as a war correspondent in this country. However, in his manuscripts, Patterson did not write anything about this souvenir. Apparently, he wanted to keep it secret. What was found under the barracks of ancient Rome? In 128, the Romans in Great Britain completed a grandiose construction. A rampart of stone and peat was built, which went down in history as Hadrian's Wall, having received the name of the emperor during whose reign it was built. Archaeological excavations on the territory of the structure have been going on for several decades and have given scientists a large number of artifacts. Particularly interesting were the excavations carried out at the site of the barracks of the Roman troops, which were built even before the construction of Hadrian's Wall began. The richest find gave experts reason to believe that the buildings left between 117 and 118 years old were abandoned in a hurry, and this haste had a historical explanation. After the death of Emperor Trajan in 117, the islanders, deciding to take advantage of the opportunity, rebelled. The Roman detachments located in the barracks did not have serious defensive structures and could not withstand the siege, and therefore were forced to leave them. But it was not the urgent evacuation of the garrison that helped the scientists, but the fact that a few years later, the Romans, restoring the barracks during the construction of the wall, poured concrete on their floors, reliably preserving everything abandoned. The most valuable finds are two cavalry swords, one of which was found in a scabbard. The weapon was simply lying on the floor in the barracks, and if one of the swords was damaged, its blade was bent, then the second had no visible damage. These swords are defined as cavalry. They are long, about 60 centimeters, light, and very sharp. Terracotta bottle or rattle. In 2013, archaeologists in Italy discovered a 2,400-year-old terracotta baby bottle that doubled as a pig-shaped toy. A unique artifact is a rare item ever found in Manchuria. The relic, known as the goddess, is a narrow-necked vessel from which liquids were poured. They were used for wine and other drinks, but in this case, goddess was used to feed an infant or young child. Uniquely, this goddess also had the shape of a pig, with pointed ears and human eyes. It also had terracotta rattles in its stomach. The vessel dates from around 2400, when southeastern Italy was inhabited by the Messapes, a tribal group that migrated from Illyria around 1000 BC. The Messapi disappeared after the Roman Republic conquered the region and assimilated the inhabitants. Tin mines. The discovery of bronze is considered a significant achievement in metalworking. Very few metals are valuable on their own in their natural form. These include, for example, gold and silver. Bronze, on the other hand, is an ally of copper and tin, and until a certain time it was best suited as a material for tools and mortar. Unfortunately, tin is quite rare in Europe, but people have long known a powerful tool for interacting and getting what they needed: trade. Thus, the Greeks imported tin from one of the few deposits in Cornwall in England. Archaeological studies of these mines have shown that the mines have been in use for several thousand years. Finds of bronze items, which included this tin, were found on the Mediterranean coast, which means that in those distant times, people were not so isolated from each other as we used to think. A city with 12,000 years of history. On the banks of the ancient Tigris River, in the Turkish province of Batman, there is, so to speak, the real cradle of civilization. Here, in the steep caves above the river, one of the most ancient settlements was born, which is about 12,000 years old. This place is located in the ancient city of Hasankeyf, and in September 2021, large-scale archaeological excavations began here. The task of archaeologists is to find out as much as possible about this place. This place has been inhabited since ancient times. Archaeologists have discovered a Neolithic burial site here. But even in the Middle Ages, life was in full swing here. Sekai Erdal, the leader of the expedition, said that this city is located on the banks of the river at the intersection of important trade routes. That is why the Romans built a powerful fortress here in 363, in the garrison buildings of which excavations will begin. Hasankeyf Castle, as this military structure was called, is not just an ordinary Roman fortification. This is a huge space that includes the entire valley and buildings around. The total area of this unique monument is about 110,000 square meters. One of the most important and unique objects of the Hasankeyf Castle is a secret gate, which has survived to this day. In the event of an attack by enemies, members of the ruling dynasty could leave the castle, leaving through these gates directly into the valley. Iron Age combat knife. Archaeological excavations at Skelby in the southwest of Västerås, Sweden, continue to yield unexpected finds. A short sword or combat knife dating from AD 700-900 was recently found in a well. Archaeologists have already noted the unique preservation of the beautifully carved wooden handle. The find was made at the bottom of one of the wells. The archaeologists are digging at the site where there was once a settlement. It is a prehistoric settlement and a younger Iron Age burial ground of about 20 graves. A sword or knife about 40 centimeters long was found deep in the mud. Similar swords were probably previously used in hand-to-hand fighting, hence their unofficial name, knife for a fight. Scientists note that such objects in living quarters can be found very rarely. They were part of personal equipment, very expensive items, and often had a case with a hanging device. There is a theory that the sword was sacrificed on purpose. It seems more likely than accidentally dropping such a prestigious item into a wall. The weapon, which is 1,300 years old, is decorated with a beautiful carved wooden handle. Experts explain that such old wooden items are often kept in good condition. This is due to the fact that it was deep in the wall in the mud and was completely saturated with water, so oxygen did not get inside, which destroyed the wood. Subway construction. The construction of the Thessaloniki subway began in 2006. The ancient headless statue of Aphrodite was found by the builders of the subway in the city of Thessaloniki, the latest of 300,000 finds, possibly one of the most stunning archaeological findings in the Thessaloniki subway. Greek archaeologists have excavated a construction site expanding the existing subway line and have unearthed the remains of an ancient aqueduct and thousands of artifacts dating from the Hellenistic and Roman eras. Thus, archaeologists have discovered an ancient aqueduct, underground wells, and a luxurious stone floor of classical Hellenism. Copies and images of all these objects will be combined into an exhibition that will be installed at the Municipal Theatre subway station in Piraeus. Currently, the station is still under construction. The exposition will also include some of the artifacts that have also been excavated by archaeologists. It is reported that there are thousands of them, so all the items in the subway station simply will not fit. They belong to both the Hellenistic and Roman times. The construction of the subway in the northern capital of Greece began 12 years ago, but it is proceeding very slowly due to the large number of historical finds on the way of the builders. The ancient artifacts were found by workers at the bottom of the city's former canals during the construction of a new subway line in Amsterdam. The finds range from Stone Age tools to modern jewelry and the remains of drowned animals. They have been stored for almost 800 years. The Damrak and Rocken canals, tributaries of the Amstel River, were filled up in the 19th century and turned into streets of modern Amsterdam. In 2003, work began on the site in the construction of a new line of the city subway, and workers stumbled upon 700,000 objects. The artifacts date back to completely different eras and even cultures: ceramic plates, mini-wall nails, coins, hooks, a Russian text seal, and a tsuba of a 19th century Japanese samurai sword. All items reflect the different stages of the construction of city buildings and talk about how the navigable routes were modified. During the construction of the subway in Rome, it was possible to find the house of an ancient Roman military leader, dated to the 2nd century AD. In the villa of the 2nd century, there are 14 rooms, with an area of about 300 square meters, a well-preserved fountain in the courtyard, ancient frescoes and mosaics, as well as a marble floor. Preserved floor decoration, black and white mosaics with floral motifs, walls are decorated with marble tiles and decorated with frescoes. Archaeologists even managed to find the remains of a fountain that once adorned the atrium. Workers found this house at a depth of 12 meters, not far from the ruins of an ancient Roman barracks. Scientists suggested that it could belong to one of the generals of the Emperor Hadrian. In Turkey, during the construction of the subway, a real city was hidden for many years right underground. There are many similar dungeons in Turkey, but Derinköy, the largest of them, consists of 8 levels and descends to a depth of 80 meters. The cave kingdom was built around the 8th century BC, and its first inhabitants were the ancient Phrygians and then the early Christians who were hiding here from the persecution. But the original purpose of the underground structure still remains unknown. Cookware with 300 years of history. On the sea voyage with your own set. Apparently, 300 years ago they had no idea about traveling light. Moreover, only a wealthy person could afford to grab a couple of extra plates. And he did. The found items have several identification marks, 3 hallmarks, the inscription Henrik Lefrensen and the date 1694. 2 hallmarks indicate the material, tin, and the third, the coat of arms, more precisely a small circle in which, if you look closely, you can see the image of a 2-headed eagle. But this is not the coat of arms of Russia as many might think. The 2-headed eagle rather speaks of Austrian origin. Judging by the surviving list of passengers, the dishes belong to a wealthy Caesarean named Hitler. In the wreckage of a merchant ship, only 3 plates and 3 spoons were found for different types of dishes. Probably the owner carried the entire set with him, but it was not possible to establish exactly how many details were there. The Archangel Raffel belonged to the Dutch merchant Herman Meyer. In October 1724, the ship sailed from St. Petersburg to Lubbock. According to the declaration of the port customs, it transported a minor cargo: lard, matting, linen yarn, and linen. A month and a half later, the sailboat got into freeze-up, was abandoned by the crew, and crushed by the ice. Corsican Treasure from Lava Bay. This treasure is considered one of the most important archaeological finds. It provides unique evidence of Roman imperial coinage. The detective story has been dragging on for several decades. The first coins from this hoard were found in the late 50s near the southern Corsica in the Bay of Lava. Then the aureus and large gold medallions were secretly sold to private collectors. In 1986, 3 local divers discovered hundreds more of the highest quality Roman gold coins dating from the late 3rd century AD. The Corsicans dived after them several times and then sold them on the black market, claiming that the coins were their inheritance. This case came to the attention of the police. Divers began to spend a lot, suspiciously. The French government has declared that this submerged treasure is a maritime cultural property and belongs to the state. They confiscated any remaining coins and arrested the divers, along with 5 other related individuals. To this day, France is trying to recover the treasures the divers managed to sell. In 2005, 5 more people were arrested in Paris, and items worth up to 2 million euros were seized from them, including a gold cup, which is now in the Historical Museum of Marseille. This treasure, consisting of the coins of Galileus, Claudius II, Quintilla, and Aurelian, is evidence of a turbulent period in the history of Rome. There are a lot of counterfeits among the famous coins of these emperors, so the historical value of even a partially preserved treasure is very high. Now in museums there are 450 coins from the hoard. Researchers suggest that the hoard contained at least 1,400 coins. In addition, the French Department of Underwater Archaeological Research reports that the 30-kilogram gold statue, one of the greatest treasures of Roman antiquity, has been cut up and resold by smugglers. Unique gold ring in Israel. Israeli archaeologists during excavations at the world's largest ancient winery in Yavne have discovered a gold ring with an amethyst. Ancient jewelry expert Dr. Emil Galani suggests that the ring most likely belonged to a noble and influential person, since said jewelry has always indicated the high status and the wealth of its owner. Of particular interest to scientists is not even the gold ring itself, but an insert made of amethyst, which is quite rare in such ancient jewelry. Amethyst is mentioned in the Bible as one of the 12 stones on the high priest's breastplate. Many legends were associated with the gem in antiquity, and many healing properties were also attributed to it. For example, it was believed that amethyst copes with a hangover, which is ironic because the jewelry was found on the territory of a giant Byzantine winery. Gold rings with amethyst were just common in the Roman world, so the ring could well be inherited from a wealthy man who lived in Yavne back in the 3rd century AD. Now the jewelry has been sent for additional examinations where experts will try to find out more precisely its age. By the way, along with the ring, archaeologists have discovered other artifacts which are about 1,500 years old. Even though this video has come to an end, you can always watch a huge number of previous videos so as not to get bored. A kind comment from you and I have a new video. Thanks for your views, bye everyone!